Good afternoon, everyone. It's a privilege to have with us Professor Bharat Oswal, an angel investor, startup mentor, and ecosystem enabler with extensive experience across innovation, branding, and entrepreneurship. He currently serves as Chief Strategic Advisor for the startups at MIT World Peace University and Vice Chairman at the GITO Incubation and Innovation Foundation, where he actively contributes to building and strengthening startup ecosystems. With rich expertise across brand strategy, mentoring, and leadership roles in multiple organizations, he brings valuable insights for aspiring founders and innovators. On that note, sir, we are really glad to have you with us today, and I would like to invite you to take over the session. Thank you.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Can all of you basically switch on your videos so we can have an interactive session here
Sure.
wherever possible if we can? So, how many startups are here today? Only Gaurav is there.
In the 8 startups together.
Eight
Eight
startups,
startups.
sir.
Okay. Can you tell please everybody to switch on the video so we can have an interactive session? It would be great. So, because the session is on storytelling and when it's happening online, it's always better to have an interaction going on. So, if Sakshat, Sindhura, Abhishek, Kristen, Abhinandan, Satwa, Chandrika, can just switch on your video, that would be great. So, hi everybody. I hope the screen is visible and the presentation is also visible. So, my name is Bharat Oswal. I typically run an advertising company based out of Pune. I've been working across different domains. I work with real estate, I work with manufacturing, I work with food, I work with technology companies. My second company is I build experience centers. So I make digital experience centers. Other than that, there are two more companies. Other than that, I've also invested in four companies. Currently, I teach. So I teach BBA, Bade Baap Ki Aulad, which is typically family business kids, which I teach in Pune, Bombay, Bangalore, and Delhi. Currently with Jito, I'm a part of Jito, that is Jain International Trade Organization. I'm currently the vice chairman for that, where we incubate startups and where we invest in startups. So we've incubated 50 startups and invested in 100 startups. So we've invested almost 350 crore through our angel network, right? So to start off with, this is what my introduction is. So this session would be more interactive, where I'll be asking a lot of questions, and I would want you to speak about it, right? So what is happening today, right? So today, what is happening in current industry is today things have changed a lot in the last 5-10 years post COVID. Post COVID, a lot of things have evolved, a lot of industries have evolved, and media also as an industry has evolved a lot. So now what has happened is that the short form videos have taken over long form videos. So if you go anywhere, if you're opening a phone, opening a laptop, opening any screen, you will find that people are more engaged in short form of video. So we are got into the habit of flipping our phones, right? Then what is happening is quick commerce wasn't existing before 2020, but now quick commerce has taken over the whole industry. So all the urban areas of India, quick commerce is playing a very, very important role in the way the product is sold and in the way probably product is done. So now I have a question for you. Now, more, probably few of the people you must be doing D2C brands here, right? How much does quick commerce is contributing to your business? Any one of you?
So we recently started quick commerce. Of our retail business, it's about 20% of our uh, uh, retail business actually.
Okay. And how do you see the next 5 years with respect to this quick commerce as an industry?
Very positive because we are actually working hard to invest and grow that channel. So we are just live on two platforms and we have seen the impact.
Okay.
There's definitely a lot to learn. The dynamics are very different as compared to other retail channels. The speed and everything, the discipline is very different. So we definitely have to learn and unlearn a lot of things per se to adapt to that channel. But
Okay.
we
Great.
surely believe that there's like more potential than what's visible right now.
So typically, if you see, everything has evolved over a period of time, right? So COVID, post-COVID, war, and a lot of things changes very fast, right? Because the technology is evolving a lot, right? Now today, if you're looking some memes, which we talk about, right? So people no longer are looking at articles or reading so much of articles, right? So memes are taking over, right? In the way we communicate, right? Bots today, right? So today bots are replacing the way we work, right? So today, whether it is your website, whether it is your Instagram, whether it is your any of your platform, your AI agent is playing a very, very important role, right? I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I was with a company by the name Anurok. Anurok is one of the biggest real estate broking firms in the country, right? Now they have started implementing Gemini AI in their own premise. They invested almost 50 crores. And after investing that much amount of money, they have generated a business of 600 crores using AI, right? So we usually look at AI mostly in D2C terms, but also B2B companies who are selling high ticket items are somehow using this technology to a different level. And if you look at AI also, AI is going to kill a lot of jobs, right? Now let's go to the next slide, right? Industries are changing, right? Thought processes are evolving. AI is changing the world, right? So if you look at even the stock market, right? So if you look at the stock market, Nifty 50, I don't know how many you look at stock market, but if you look at the index of the India country, the shares which were there 10 years before are no longer there, right? And 10 years down the line, you will also find different brand names. If you go to US market also, today, most of the top 10 shares of the US industry is the whole contribution comes from the AI part. Now, whether it is Alphabet, whether it is Alibaba, whether it is probably your Teslas of the world, if you see everything changes. So what's happening is the industry is moving at a very rapid pace. Now, when industry is moving at a very rapid pace, what used to work doesn't work anymore, right? So the marketing things have evolved over a period of time. So what was taught 10 years before, like the 4 P's of marketing and the 7 S of marketing, it doesn't really work at this point of time because things have changed, right? But has our thinking evolved, right? Now, our thinking hasn't evolved the way it should be, right? If you look at this image, what can you make out of this image? Any one of you. And I would want others also to come and talk other than Gaurav. I think so that would be better.
It's the retail aisle with too many discounts and offers.
Okay. So what happens when we go online?
It's completely distracted.
So there are two parts of the story, right? So we are always looking at offers, and offers, right? So typically, even if I'm coming with a D brand, our focus is always about giving discounts, giving offers. Now, whether it is Zepto, whether it is Cred, whether it is Blinkit, whether it is any other platform, right? Our whole premise or our whole focus is always on working on the pricing. Second part of the story, if you see, that is the right side section. If you see, there's too much of clutter. In a day, how many ads do we see? How many advertising or we basically look when you're opening the phone, when you're opening the laptop, when you're opening the newspaper? If you do, how many ads do we see? Anyone? Hello?
10 or above.
Only 10?
If you're using a phone, obvious 10 or more to
So,
that extent.
so every minute which you're opening, there is certain ad. If I'm playing a game, I see an ad. If I'm looking at Instagram, there is an ad. If I'm looking at a YouTube video, I'm looking at an ad. So in a day, I'm getting exposed to at least 100 ads. Now, how many ads do you remember? Right?
One or two, I think.
One or two, probably. And that also, if it is like a super hit thing, then probably you remember. Otherwise, most of the times we don't even remember.
Yeah.
So whatever ad which I saw today, I might not even remember after 3 days. So what is happening is we are getting overexposed to a lot of things. So when I'm getting overexposed to a lot of things, remembering anything is very difficult. And that is how marketing clutter is. Now, whether there is a product clutter also, there's a marketing clutter also, right? And everybody talks the same thing that my product is better, my product is tastier, my product is healthier, my product is better, a lot of these things. So if it's a B2B company, they talk about quality. If I'm food, I talk about taste. If I'm talking about healthcare brand, they will talk about its impact. So everybody is talking the same language. So when everybody talks the same language, there is a problem. So when I say, I'm assuming there are certain people who understand with it. So there are certain things. पहले भी थी, आज भी है, आगे भी रहेगी. Can anybody explain me this sentence? Anyone?
Whatever they may say, but it will be existing, maybe like that.
What is trying to
Same
say, what was used to be there in the past is there today also, and it's going to be there tomorrow also, right? So आज भी है, आगे भी रहेंगे. So there are certain things which will change very fast, like technology. When you're talking about it evolves, right? So we moved from a normal telephone to a pager to a feature phone to a smartphone, right? So we evolved when it came to technology, but there are certain things in life which will always remain. And what are these things, right? Kahaniyan रहेगी. So when I'm talking about kahani, story which will always remain. Observation, right? It is the most important aspect. So when you are dealing into this segment, the observation is very important. What is happening around? How are people talking? Now, when you look at people today, when you're traveling in trains or traveling in flights, what do people do?
They are constantly on their phones.
So where is the head? How's the head position? It's always on the phone, right? So typically it's like this. I'm actually probably maybe now probably even if in a session there must be somebody sending a WhatsApp, there must be somebody sending a message, right? So automatically my focus automatically goes there, right? So this is what is very, very important when it comes to advertising, when it comes to storytelling, observation is extremely important. What is happening around? Now, whether I'm a B2B brand, whether I'm a B2C brand, it doesn't matter. Storytelling always will remain wherever you go, right? Do you anyone seen this image in the past?
Yes.
Yeah,
So what does it show typically? What does this image show?
this one hour of
So what story it is? Let's put it this way.
Ramayana.
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 So Ramayan, whether in the north, whether it in the south, whether it is in the east, whether it in the west, it remains the same, right? So there is Ram, Sita, Hanuman, Lakshman. That's it. These are four characters, right? So there are certain things which we do probably in our life before, and so when we have grown over a period of time, there are certain things which will always remain, which will always remember, right? Now, for example, the cartoon which you saw probably when you're probably at 10 years, right? So maybe in your era, it might be the Pokemons of the world, right? In our era, we had something else. In somebody else's era, it would be something else, right? Now, I'll show you one more image, right? Now, tell me what does it mean? When you see this image, what is the first thing which comes to your mind?
Maggie.
Right? So when you see this image where it's noodles, you think about Maggie. When you're talking about, say, probably a chocolate, it could be a Gems, it could be a Cadbury, it could be a 5 star. So whenever it is coming to sweets, these are three brands which will always come. So if you look at Maggie, what is Maggie? Maggie is a part of our habit. Any product which is a part of your habit will always remember, which will always remain with you. So just to give you an example, let's assume probably at the age of 2021 you start smoking, you got addicted to smoking. You will not leave smoking unless and until the doctor says, okay, boss, you need to quit smoking. Or probably if your lungs are out of function, right? So this is how things are, right? So if you look at products which are D2C brands, direct to consumer, right? When you make people, when the product becomes a part of your habit, it becomes very difficult to switch, right? Now, for example, let's assume you're buying. So let's assume if you want to buy a jeans, which brand do you usually buy?
Levi's.
Levi's, right? So one of the preferred option is Levi's. If I have to buy a watch, what watch do I buy?
Titan.
Titan, right? So this is the first thing. So if I have a lot of money, then I might buy a Rolex, right? So
Yeah.
if you look at these brands, these are brands which are made over a period of time. They have been created, right? Because there is a value which you see. Titan is a trusted brand. Levi's is a trusted brand, right? So if I'm building a brand, I should build a trusted brand always. People should feel that when I'm buying the product, I'm getting the right product. Now, what happens in the food category, right? You look at juices. So if you look at any real juice, do you think so there is actually real juice?
No.
What is it actually? So when you look at a real juice with probably an orange, what do you see? You see an orange. Is it actually orange?
It's no.
So what is it?
Probably 5%, 10% concentrate.
So it's a concentrate. It's not even a fruit.
Yeah.
So what are we doing? We make fools of our customers, right?
Yeah.
We
They're
show
making.
and we are showing something and we are doing something else.
Yeah.
And this has been happening in the last 50 years, right? Whenever the FMCG market has picked up.
Yes,
Now
sir.
people have started realizing, okay, you can't make a fool out of it. I need to be more aware.
Yeah.
Right? Now
Yeah.
everybody remembers this. Probably, I don't know, in your era, you really had such products. Anybody here?
Yeah.
Yes, we
So
remember.
Yeah.
when we used to play these tapes, this used to be the cassettes which used to go, and then after that, CDs came into picture. But
Yeah.
there is always a nostalgia factor attached to it when it comes to these things.
Yes.
So these are things which are extremely important, which we need to understand, right? Okay, this is how things are, right? Now let's look at the next part. Does anybody remember this?
Yeah.
What happened in this?
This is the final catch, I think. South Africa, India. T20. Yeah.
So whatever happened in the World Cup, the only thing which will people remember is this catch.
Yeah.
Right? So whether it was Dhoni playing a sixer in the final, what Gautam Gambhir did, people won't remember that. But people will remember the Dhoni shot, the helicopter shot, right? People will remember the catch which was taken by Surya Kumar Yadav. So if you see, there are certain things which will always register. And if your brand is able to create that whole registration, your brand will always do well. And this is what we need to understand, that whether it is a business to business brand or whether it is business to consumer brand, I should be able to register my brand in the mind of the consumer, in the heart of the consumer. If you're able to achieve both, that is where you will win the battle, right? Let's go further. Anybody remembers this cycle, right? So anybody probably, I don't know, we currently cycle, how many people actually drive, but in our times, the cycle was the only option, right? When it came to probably driving down, meeting friends during the school time, right? Same school bag. So all of these elements, if you see, each of the image, if you see, will make you remember something. You don't need to talk or write anything about it. If I have to talk and write about a particular thing, that means people will not be able to remember the brand, right? So stories have always been a way to communicate. Before people actually learn how to write, they were used to tell story. Now, when you were growing up, your nana, nani, probably your dada, dadi, your mom, your dad used to tell stories, right? Because that is what we used to remember. So if you look at the Ramayana image, if you look at the Maggie image, each of these brands or each of these category have a story. It has an association, and you always remember the association. If you're able to create a strong association, that will always help. So stories are always easy to remember, right? So when we talk about presentations, people don't remember presentation. They don't remember facts. What they look at is, okay, how do you tell that story? If you look at any of the Shark Tank presentations, you will always find there is a story behind each and everything. They will show your past, they will show your challenges, they will show how you overcome your challenges, and then how did you become successful. And this is how things are, right? How do you present a brand when you're doing pitch presentation? How do you present a brand when you're actually doing a presentation to a different set of audience? The model has to evolve. It will vary based on the audience. You can't have the same presentation for different audiences. If it is an investor who's listening to a presentation, his presentation would be very different. If you are catering to a different audience who's going to buy your product, the presentation will be very, very different. Right? Now, does anybody remember this image video?
Yeah.
Right? So, what happens in this video?
Rahman Dakat comes to Baloch.
Sorry?
Rahman Dakat comes to Baloch.
Right?
And
So
they
anybody who saw Dhurandhar 1, Dhurandhar 2, they remember all of that. Now this song is a part of all the memes. This song is a part of all the dances which happens across the country. So whether it is vending, whether it is company, so the kind of impact is this one song and one dance. Now if you look at the history of Akshay Khanna, he's been dancing the same way since the time he started dancing.
Yeah.
So, but what worked here was Dhurandhar has a story, Dhurandhar has a concept, and typically the elements. So, if you see the casting, the way it was done, each and every person who was there a part of that whole movie is people remember that. So, what you see today is that things change a lot, right? So now today, if you see, there's a trend which picks up. People actually get into the trend, start implementing in their brand, and then they move to the next level. So this has become very, very common nowadays. So like if you see today, Durandar, Pushpa, any of the movies which you see, which are big ticket sizes, they're all focusing on creating a brand. They're all focusing on creating an IP, which they can monetize later, right? So you had Durandar 1, you had Durandar 2, you had Pushpa 1, you had Pushpa 2, you had War 1, you had War 2. So you have Bahubali 1, Bahubali 2. So now what has people started realizing? I create an intellectual property and then let's start monetizing on that, right? And that's where the storytelling aspect plays a very, very important role. So what are the challenges today we have? We are selling the same product what others are selling, and we use the same marketing techniques what others are doing. What differently should we do? Any one of you?
Basically, we can have the different packaging.
Okay.
In our beverage sector, especially that's like right now the trending things happening. For example, buzz ball that is hit because of its shape and that's a normal thing, but people are making it a viral thing.
Okay. So is it just, so tell me one thing, just getting likes and probably comments, is it enough for you to get business?
No, people have to repeat it. That's like one time it can go viral, but the real business is in the repeat purchase.
What do you think? So, what is the biggest challenge which everybody faces here? Rishton, Chandrika, what is the biggest challenge?
Marketing our product.
Customer's attention, getting the customer's attention.
So, is marketing a problem? Is sales a problem?
For the new product, it is marketing, sir. Then after getting into the market, it is the sales.
No, but then let's talk about, so you push an ad, you boost an ad, you get a lot of likes, you get a lot of comments. Does likes and comments is equivalent to business?
No.
So what is the metrics? People metrics, what is the metrics? What does a marketing person do? Sir, you do performance marketing, you spend so much amount of ad, right? We spend a lot of things. Now AI is coming, so people have started making videos using AI. So everybody started getting into AI. So are people using their common sense? No. Sales is the ultimate thing. Eventually business धंधा आना चाहिए. अगर धंधा आएगा तो everything is possible. अगर business नहीं आया तो whatever you do, it is of no use. You could have the best packaging on earth, but doesn't mean that probably you will have a sale, right? Most of the times when it comes to say the kind of product line which we deal into, like for example, you're dealing into A2 milk, you're dealing into sustainable products. Now every second, third person is getting into A2 milk.
Yeah.
Right? But the price point is high, correct?
Yeah.
Now, when the price point is high, there are not many customers to buy the product.
Yes.
So this is where we need to think what we do when the product is the same, when the marketing techniques are the same. We have to think where these things are done. So what happens? Products are always made in the factory, but brands are always created in the man. So when you look at the noodles, you remember about Maggie. When you look at the chocolate, you remember about Cadbury, right? When you look at probably taking Xerox, you look at the Xerox machine. So this is what you need to understand, that products are always created in the factory, but brands are always created in the mind, right? The most important question for any startup is, what is the most important question?
Revenue, traction.
Question. Is it just revenue? So the most important question anywhere on earth is why? Why would somebody buy? Why would somebody sell? Right? Why will he invest in me? Why is the most important question. And the problem today is we never answer the why. If you get into the habit of answering why, trust me, you will have the best story on earth. And this is what people have not got into the habit. They don't ask questions. We need to keep asking questions, because when you're asking questions, that's where the learning starts happening. Right? So technology is a commodity now. जो आज नया है, can anybody explain me this if they understand anything? So what I'm trying to say here is, what is new today is going to be old tomorrow. Can anybody explain me with an example?
Right. Even the mobile phones are like after 1 year that will be completely outdated right now. That's the thing.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So mobile phone is one example. What about other things?
Even the software field is will be outdated when the AI takes over. That's the
So
thing.
what used to happen is initially you had technology, then you had SaaS companies. Now you're having AI companies.
Yeah.
Right? So today to make a website, you don't even through having your bolts of the world and your lovables of the world, you can create a website, you can create an app.
Yes, sir.
So you need to decide what business you are into. Whatever business which you do, if you're replaceable, then you have to keep on innovating. And this is what we need to understand, right? So technology is a commodity, but hardware is the most important aspect, right?
Yeah.
For example, if I have to make a road, I need cement, I need steel. Correct? There could
Yeah.
be a replacement for a cement or a steel, but it will take 100 years, 200 years for that replacement. Even for that matter, say plastic, it might take 100 years to get a replacement for plastic. But yeah, for example, I'm having a milk, I might have an A2 milk, I might have a turmeric milk, I could have anything. So if you see today, any hardware company will do extremely well. Nvidia is one of the examples. Nvidia is a hardware company. It does extremely well. People don't look at that. People have moved beyond hardware. They're always focusing on the software and technology part. But you need to understand that any hardware it takes time to make. If I have to do any AI, or even on my computer, I need fast GPUs. If I don't have GPUs which are fast enough, I can't basically do the whole transaction, or for that matter, computing. So this is what we need to understand, that we need to give equal importance to the hardware part also, right?
Yeah.
When you look at the
Semiconductor.
image, what do you look out of? Which brand is this?
Like McDonald's.
Okay, let me play. Did this ad sell? Did this ad sell?
No, not directly.
It didn't sell. Will you remember that?
Yeah, you'll remember. Yeah.
Right? So whenever you look at that shape, the first thing which you'll think about is Heinz, right?
Yeah.
So this is what is very, very important. This is how brand works. This is how communication works. So even if I tell AI, okay, do this, I'll probably give a prompt. It won't be able to create this because it requires thinking. And this is what you need to understand. Everything AI can't do, everything ChatGPT can't do, everything Claude can do. It is a tool which will help you. But to create something like this, you have to observe. Now, if you see the whole ad, it was a game of whole observation, right? And that's how the whole shape came. And even if you see, it never sold. It took about, looks very similar. This is Heinz. And this is what our brand should do wherever you are. This is what you need to learn, right? One sec, let me go ahead. Does anybody remember this movie?
Swadesh.
Swadesh, right? So a lot of people probably were studying outside, probably working there. They saw the movie, a lot of people came back. And there is this one scene which people always remember when the movie Swadesh, right? There is this guy who's actually selling water, and there is Shah Rukh Khan who's sitting within the whole train. And there's a lot of emotion if you see in that whole one scene. So it's a very emotional thing. right? So we are emotional beings. What is happening out of the digital world is because we have got too much into the digital part. The empathy part has gone out of. We only talk about transactions. We don't talk about relationship. If you do look at any of the B2B deals which happens on the earth, you have to physically meet. It is not going to be practically possible that everything you do transaction, where my technology will take it over, right? So what people feel is I'll start AI bot, it will do the calling, it will do lead nurturing, but probably people are not very happy when there is a robot which is calling. The first thing which you do is whenever a robot calls, you will keep the phone down, right? So people feel it's making my life easy, but then it is making the life difficult for the other person, right? Now, if you look at Amazon and Flipkart, right, the customer service is what Amazon is known for. It was never difficult to do a complaint on Amazon. And for that matter, even Uber. But when you look at Flipkart, if you have to find the customer service, it take ages to find the customer service. And now what has happened is there is a bot who's reverting back. So even if you ask the bot, he will answer the same thing only, whatever he knows. So it is the most frustrating thing on earth that the customer service, which is the most important aspect, is the least taken care. Because I feel that if I replace humans with robots or bots, it will solve my problem. But no, it is not solving a problem. If I'm coming to customer service, that is genuinely there is some problem. That is the reason I'm coming to customer service. Either the delivery has not happened. And this is what people don't understand, that bots can't replace everything. They feel bots will replace anything. It will replace calling, it will replace customer service, it will replace everything, which is not going to be possible, right? And this is where these things are. Anybody remembers which ad is this? Probably no. Let me play the ad. So if you look at any of the Fevicol ads on earth in the last 20, 30 years, you will never forget a Fevicol ad. You will never forget an Amul ad, right? Because they are always touching the emotion. And this is what people don't understand. It is not about volume. It is always about quality, right? And simple things. This is what people have lost in the last 5 years. The simple emotional aspect has gone out. It's always about quantity. Okay, let's do every day one ad. Let's have customer segmentation. For every customer segmentation, let's put in an ad. This is what we are doing. We are just over hammering people with ads and more ads and more ads. And this doesn't work really. So if you look at the Fevicols of the world, the Pidilites of the world, or the Astrals of the world, you will always remember that, right? So going ahead, why do we tell stories? So we tell stories because it will always simplify concepts, right? That is the reason. So when you look at the Shark Tank, they look at the story aspect. The numbers comes much later. It will always bring people together. So if you look at a Swadesh or a Maggie or a Cadbury, or for that matter, even Google ads. So if you see today, B2B brands are doing ads. So whether it is Google AI, whether it is Spotify, everybody is doing a television ad or a video ad or a content ad or a static ad so that they can capture the attention. If you look at Google for that matter, Truecaller for that matter, even for that matter, WhatsApp doesn't necessarily need to do ads, but they are doing it because they realize that if you're dealing in India, emotions are very important. And WhatsApp is one of the biggest market of WhatsApp. Sorry, India is the biggest market of WhatsApp. And India probably is only country who does transaction through WhatsApp. If you look at US, they still do transactions, or probably they consider what SMS is more important than WhatsApp, right? So storytelling is what? It's not about an article, it's not about sales, it's not about advertising, it is about customer. It is about what your brand stands for. It is about the emotional part. It is always about a beginning, a crisis, and a resolution, right? So if you look at the Fevicol ad, there's a beginning, there's a surprise element, and there's a solution. So if you see, it is always an interaction between two people. It is not about, okay, I put the product, put the ad, give the discounts. This is what I do. Put the ad, put the product, give the discounts. I keep on giving discounts. Somebody is giving at 40, I will give at 35, somebody will give at 32. I will never be able to have the customer with me, right? So brand is always about storytelling. Brand is always about 360 degrees. Brand is always about leading by example. Now I'll share you two images. Now tell me one thing, what comes to your mind when you see this person first? What comes to your mind when you see this person?
Bully.
Bully. Any other thing? What he says he never does.
Yeah.
Not a guy to be trusted, right?
Yes.
So this is the first thing. So when you look at our prime minister, when you look at Trump, you start building an image. This is the perception which we carry, right? We always carry perceptions. Now, who is this guy?
Bumrah.
Yes.
Umrah. What do you think? So what happens in this visual? Anybody seen Dhurandhar 2?
That.
Anybody else? I don't know whether you see Hindi movies or not, so I'm not too sure.
Yes.
So what happens in this video? Any idea what will happen?
I see the heading. I just see. So I
So
think that where
let me play the video. So there's a scene in the Dhurandhar 2 movie where both the characters are there, right? So there is a statement, "Ghar ki nahi aant," just see. And then there's a Plum brand which looks at that statement, picks up the statement, makes it as a brand of the brand. So there's a brand, there's an integration of Plum with Mumbai Indians. So this is how smartly people are using it. And this is what you need to understand, how smartness can actually work. Just picking up that one thing and making the whole difference, right? When you look at this, you don't need to talk much about it's iPhone. And iPhone is always about status. We can say that iPhone has the best technology, best security, but eventually iPhone principally has always been about status. So when you were in your college, you might have bought your Oppos of the world and the Vivos of the world. But today, if you're going for meetings, you want an iPhone because people will start relating, right? They also decide which car you're coming from. So if you're coming with a good car, maybe they'll feel okay. You come from a rich family, probably that's how it is. So perceptions are built on a lot of these things. This is what you need to understand. Perception plays a lot of important role, right? So what is perception? Perception is we don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. So for example, I'm in Pune. My way of looking at Durandar would be very different as the way probably people in South would be. For you, probably a Pushpa is very different the way I look at Pushpa. So whatever I get exposed to those things, I will perceive like that. And perception is everything. So just like say, if I'm talking about say Rahul Gandhi, whatever is shown in the media, we perceive them as that person. Whether he is that or not, we don't know that because we have not spent time with him. So whatever the media shows, we believe them, and that's how perception works. So if your brand is able to create a positive perception, you will always win the battle. If your brand does not deal that perception, you will never have that stickiness factor. That is the reason when I spoke about Titan or the watch, you automatically relate it. But tomorrow, let's assume if Reliance comes with a watch, you might not buy it because Reliance you can't rely. That is the whole difference. What visual, what do you create? Now, if you look at say North Indians, South Indians, right? So the trust factor goes down as we go up. How many people agree? Correct or wrong? So if you're dealing with Delhi people, nothing here against, but Delhi लोगों से मुश्किल हो जैसे आप नॉर्थ में आते हो साउथ में जैसे आप जाते हो तो ट्रस्ट फैक्टर ज्यादा बढ़ता है correct and that's how things are whether it is a reality or not that's a different story but eventually agar aap they'll probably we don't want to work with Delhi people itself right so they prefer working with people down south so this is how perception works now for example this Maharashtra Karnataka everybody has a language problem so when a Kannadiga comes to probably Maharashtra then you should talk in Marathi when a Marathi goes to Kannadiga then he should talk in this language right so there are certain perception which we carry everywhere whether it is right or wrong that's a different story we all see what has been shown in the media and we are always fed with so much of information so initially we just had newspaper we don't have newspapers anymore we are seeing television we are seeing Instagram we're seeing all of that so we get influenced so my mind is getting influenced by all of that and when my mind starts getting influenced I might not be able to take a decision in a neutral way and this is what you need to understand there's too much of information overload so when there is too much of information overload I have to create out of box things right? This watch. So when you see the watch, what do you feel?
Class always.
Huh?
High value.
High value. And so if you're wearing a Rolex, what will your partners or probably your subordinates think?
Right.
You have a lot of money,
Yeah.
right? Probably can marry you also. So typically, if you see whether it is a real Rolex or not, that's a different story. But the fact of matter is Rolex has a value, right? Mercedes has a value. A BMW has a value, right? So if I'm buying a Mercedes, if I'm buying a Volkswagen, the job of the car is to take a person from destination A to destination B. But eventually, if you see this thing, it is all about again the brand, right?
Yeah.
What is storytelling? Storytelling involves characters, it involves conflict, and involves resolution. So if you look at a static ad or a print ad or probably even of any of the communication, these three elements are extremely strong. If you're able to answer all of these three, your storytelling will often always happen very powerful, right? So how does the process works, right? You should always know your audience. You should know what is your core messaging. You should know what kind of story you're trying to tell. Now, whether it is a story which you are catering to a specific audience or for that matter, a specific set of people or a specific location, everything changes. Every storytelling process somehow need to have a call to action. Now, the call to action does not necessarily mean a business. A call to action could be probably maybe talking about the brand, maybe people remembering the brand. Like if you look at the Fevicol thing, or if you look at probably even the ad which we saw. So it was making people remember the brand, like Heinz. Then what is the medium which I follow? Whether I'll do a written story on a LinkedIn, whether I'll do a spoken story, whether I'll do an audio story or a podcast, or whether I do a digital story. So if you follow these two things, the storytelling part and probably the process, you will always do very well, right? Going ahead, these are the challenges today. Reduce attention span. The span is no longer there. Clutter is too much. The brand loyalty isn't there. It doesn't matter what product I buy, right? For example, maybe for a phone, I might go for an iPhone, but for a jeans, I might buy a Zara. So the biggest challenge today, what we face, is to differentiate about how to communicate and what to communicate. If you're able to answer those challenges, you will do extremely well, right? Uh, this is an ad by Sushil Rajput, but we are short on time, so I'll probably skip this part. Now, do we buy products or do we buy stories or perception? What do we buy?
Stories.
Okay. Anybody has any other answers?
Maybe perception.
हाँ, so मतलब typically वही है. So perception creates stories or stories create perception. It's one and the same. So you're never buying a product. So you're never buying a lens. You're not, never buying a phone. All of these things. We are always buying either stories or perception. So if I'm going to vote for somebody, what is being shown, we will vote for that. So I'm sitting in Maharashtra, I might vote for BJP. If I'm sitting in Kerala, I might vote for Congress. If I'm sitting in probably Calcutta, I might vote for CPIM or probably a Mamata. So perception, it's all about perception. You are always being in and around with perception. What creates perception? These are 5 elements which creates perception, right? What you see, right? What you smell, what you listen, what you touch, and what you feel. These 5 elements will decide how the perception is created. Now, whether it was a Titan ad versus an Airtel ad, right? So this is what you remember. So if you look about Dhurandhar, in Dhurandhar, you'll always remember the tune. Fala, that's what it is. If you look at Titan, there used to be a ringtone. So at probably 15 years before, the ringtone used to be in form. People used to relate, ये Nokia का phone है. And this is how things were, right? When it comes to taste, now if you go to any theater, you will always find popcorn and samosas outside. The smell is so enticing that you buy the product. Now, whether it is probably worth 500 or 600, that is a different story, right? Startups are of 3 types: business to consumer, business to government. Out of all of you, where do you stand? All of you, or a combination of both, or try both. Gaurav,
B2C.
B2C. What about others?
Yeah.
B2C and B2B.
B2C, B2B both.
B2C.
Job, B2B. People don't like B2G.
Not yet, but quasi. We are a bit of like we work with a lot of cooperatives, which are quasi government.
So B2G probably has the maximum money. B2C typically is more like a burning model. You burn cash, you get customers. You burn cash, you get customers. When you're looking at business to business, you need network. Without a network, it becomes very difficult to do a B2B business. Say, for example, let's assume I'm selling pumps or I'm selling a real estate tech. So my clients are always going to be real estate tech companies or real estate companies. Business to government is the most difficult, but the maximum money is in government, right? So stories are everywhere. The way we communicate, the people, the product, the buying, the hiring, the selling, the places, the behavior, the customer, the employee, and religion. Is anybody a Jain here? Do you have any Jain friends in and around?
Yes.
Right? So if you look at Jains, they will prefer to stay in a building with and Gujaratis. They will always prefer that there has to be a mandir wherever they stay. These are two important aspects. The real estate prices is always going to be the highest in that locality, right? So this is what you need to understand. Stories are everywhere. So when I'm writing an email, when I'm talking to you, there are stories which are everywhere. And this is what I need to understand. I have to look what is happening in and around, right? Now, when you look at this dialogue, what do you remember? Sorry, I had a bit of Hindi element. I didn't realize Hindi probably I should avoid it. But typically,
नहीं इधर
so
समझते हैं सबको.
हाँ मतलब पता नहीं है मतलब again. So घायल who is typically Dhurandhar, right? So when I see the statement, that's the first thing. What comes to your mind when you read this? The clue is in the down. Don't use Chat GPT. Probably you can try.
This is Jack Ma.
Jack Ma, right? Right. Next. Should be an easy thing.
Dhoni Pani.
Dhoni.
MST.
Right? South Indians, I don't need to tell them about Dhoni, right? They know that Dhoni in and out, right? This is very interesting. A lot of people are there, but then
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs, right? So there are a lot of people who might have got fired. I also got fired twice, so but probably people don't know me, right? So typically, what is kahaniya? So kahaniya, when I'm looking at stories, it is about bhavna. Bhavna is emotion, right? It is about pyar. It is about dar. It is about achai, burai. Utsa is more about the whole eagerness, sadness, right? So there are all kinds of emotions when it comes to stories. So when you look at Ramayana, when you look at Mahabharata, when you look at a Pokemon, there are emotions. And we are always filled with emotions. So when you're doing a presentation, when the presentation doesn't do too good, you realize this isn't the way which I wanted. When you're doing a pitch, if the pitch doesn't go the way you are, then automatically your mood changes. When you get up in the morning and probably you get a good call, probably from somebody, then your day automatically is the way the tempo is like that. So if you see emotions, we live by emotions. We might do transaction, but we eventually we are emotional beings, right? So people connect with people, not with machines and gadgets. This is what people make mistakes. They feel it's always about machine, but it is not the case. Relationships matter. So जो दिल में नहीं वो कहीं नहीं. So Dhoni is हर एक Dhoni at the age of 45, people still feel that CSK will take CSK to a different level, right? So for people of Bombay or for people of Maharashtra, Sachin Tendulkar is an emotion. He's like the god. So they would want him to play it at the age of 50 also. They will want him to play at the age of 60 also, right? So eventually, what is more important that it has to be in your heart. For that matter, say a Rajnikant. For that matter, a Vijay. For that matter, a Kantara. For that matter, a Pushpa, right? It has to be there in your heart. That's what is important, right? And out of sight is always out of mind. People make that always mistakes when it comes to B2B brands. They feel a B2B brand does not need to market themselves, but they are wrong. Every B2B brand also has to be there in front of somebody who's going to buy it because he has an option to switch also, right? And the most important aspect, business should make you money. The problem in today's startup ecosystem is the business doesn't make the money. I take the money from the investor. I will invest the money either in R&D or promoting the product. And I will spend so much amount of money to acquire the customer, right? That is a problem with most of the D2C brands, right? And the most important thing is to adding value to others. Today, there are 10 people who are there in this session. Every person might be connected to two people. If you're able to help each other, you will have 20 connections. That's how you start growing business. When two people are meeting, always, now if you look at the BNS of the world, they always talk about adding value. You should create value for others. When you're creating value for others, automatically your network will start building it, right? So the consumer process, it's about receiving, it's about selecting, it is about organizing, it is about interpreting things. So if you're able to interpret things, it is very easy, right? Now, typically again, so there are different brands, different stories, right? These are certain things, right? So now if you look at this ad, it's an ad by the name Artorial. It's a marketplace for paintings and photographs. So the communication is very simple. Protect your ideals, frame them, right? Again, I go in the past, right? This is a mall, right? So a fashionable uncle. So if I talk about putting 50% discount, it doesn't work. So this is what you need to understand, right? This is very interesting. This is a tabloid by the name Pune Trends, and it is competing against newspaper. A newspaper has a shelf life of 15 minutes. So what happens to the newspaper? It goes in Belpuri. It goes in the newspaper also goes for wrapping up your clothes. It also comes to wrap up your daru cup or alcohol bottle. This AI can't do. This is what you need to understand, right? Again, this is a company which sells diesel, right? You call them up and the diesel will reach to your stop. Repos Energy, right? So if you see all kinds of things wherever you go, these are extremely important. Now, when you look at this image, right, this is me, for example. So if you're you, there are three kinds of people which you are surrounded with. One are people who are below you, one are people who are better than you, and one are people who are 10x than you. What goes wrong with people is that 99% of their time goes in the left side. You're spending time with people who are below average or at your level. If you really want to grow, you have to spend time with people who are better than you and who are people who are 10x than you. There's a concept by the name law of 33%. You will always see, they always say that whatever your people you are surrounded with decides what you become, decides what you do. So if you have to become the Adanis of the world or the Ambanis of the world, you have to keep on reading a lot. And that's how the learning will happen, right? So 3 point mantra for building a brand, right? Awareness is the most critical thing. Jagrutta. People should be aware about you, right? Second is acceptability, whether people accept you or not. If you're accepted as a person, things matters a lot. And adaptability. These are three pillars. If you're able to have those three pillars, it always matters. Adaptability is something where people miss out on a lot of these things. People are not adaptable, right? For all the startups, there is this video which I want to show.
I guess the audio is not playing, or probably the screen is stuck.
Audio didn't play. Is it applicable for us? Hello? Anybody there or gone? Everybody's out. Hello?
We saw the video. I think the audio was not clear, I think.
Acha. So the video said probably, I don't know if you see the video, the time will come.
अपना टाइम आएगा.
अपना टाइम आएगा. That was the whole idea. तो वो बोलता है नजर बनाए रख. For any startup which is there today, which is at incubation, pre-incubation, post-incubation, your time will come. You have to be patient enough and you have to keep fighting. And that is how you'll grow in life. It is about hanging on. लगे रहो, that's what they say. अगर लगे रहोगे, कुछ ना कुछ तो बन ही पाओगे. Whatever happens on earth, whether there is a war situation, whether it is not, it doesn't really matter, right? So this is what is it, and probably this is my favorite video, right? Probably, I don't know, Is the voice audible? Let me know. Is it audible?
No.
There is some problem with the connection, it seems to be. Probably I'll share the video. So this guy, everybody knows Gaur Gopal Das. So he is talking one simple thing. जब जेब में है पैसे तब लोग पूछते हैं कैसे, राइट? और जब जेब में कोई कुछ नहीं होता है तो लोग पूछते हैं कि आप कौन हो, राइट? एंड द बिगेस्ट थिंग इन लाइफ व्हिच ही सेज इज whether your time is good or bad, always be humble, always help people, always go and out of the way to help people, and that's how you'll actually build a good brand. Because if you're a good person, you have a good character, your company will do very well. You might not make the biggest of money, but you should be satisfied in life, and that is what the whole journey of entrepreneurship is. It is always about helping people, and that is it. Probably that's it for the day, and enough for this, and the floor is open for questions. And if there are no questions, then also it's good.
I think the only question that I have is finding that balance between that Heinz approach and because Heinz, at least from our perspective, I've consumed Heinz a lot. So तो वो brand का जाता है, and then when you see something like that, it becomes a little, it reinforces you.
Absolutely.
So
So, see, what has happened today is people look at that it's always about quantity. It is not about quantity, it is about quality. Now, as you said, that you have consumed Heinz, and Heinz does not necessarily need to do ad to make people remember Heinz, or a Maggie does not necessarily mean to do that. But he has to do it because it has to reinforce. So, what has happened is when you were doing a television ad, it was a 30-second ad. So, in that 30-second ad, you have to communicate everything. Now, what is happening? You can do a 5 minute or a 50 minute. So, what has happened is you have moved from a bigger screen to a smaller screen, to a more smaller screen. So, now to catch the attention of the consumer is the most difficult part. And even if you catch the consumer, are you able to convert the business? Is extremely important. And if you're able to do that, you will win the battle. In the battle between the Zeptos of the world and the DMart of the world, people might say Zepto will win, but I will say DMart is a profitable company, right? See, today our business, if I'm dealing an FMCG brand, is dependent on quick commerce, on the Zeptos of the world and the Blinkits of the world. It's a good thing also, and it's a bad thing also, because your business is purely dependent on that. Now, when you had an LPG crisis, there's a big problem, right? So today, most of the restaurants are dependent on probably the Swiggies and the Zomatos of the world. So what is happening is there is only one sales guy, which is Zomato and Swiggy, who's selling the product. If tomorrow he has an issue, now he increase the platform fee from nothing to 19 rupees. So I am dependent on that sales guy to sell my product. So you also have to decide how do you transition from a marketplace to your own website. That is extremely important, right? Today, what is happening? All the marketplaces, right, make money through ads. Your Zeptos of the world, your Flipkarts of the world, your Blinkits of the world, they're all facing ad inventories to everybody, and they are making money out of it. Because when I'm doing a transaction, I'm not making any money. But when you're putting up that ad which goes on to Blinkit on the Flipkarts of the world, that is where they start making money. So platform companies are not actually selling product; they are distribution companies. But at the end of the day, they're making money through ad inventories. So you have to look, you have to spend time understanding your customer, your consumer, your process, your systems, and that's how you'll win the battle. और कुछ, and if you don't understand, then also you can ask. If you have understood, थोड़ा बहुत भी अगर समझा रहेगा, then probably it could help. If we don't have any questions, then we can probably close for the day.
Okay. So shall we conclude the session, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
If they don't have any questions to ask.
I don't think so there are any questions as such. Done.
Yes, sir. Thank you for
Thank
the
you.
session.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
thank you, Bharatji.
Thank
Thank you.